There is a certain kind of anxiety that doesn't reveal itself during the height of the storm, but instead ambushes you in the moment of stillness. It is that psychological itch you feel when your to-do list is finally finished, when the evening settles in and there is nothing left to achieve. For some, this moment isn't a reward, it is a threat. Have you ever felt a wave of guilt because you sat for an hour without producing anything? Have you felt your sense of worth diminishing with every minute you spend in rest? If so, you aren't just an ambitious person. You are caught in the high-functioning trap. For you, rest is not a break for the warrior. It is the void where the voices of the past begin to scream. In psychology, this constant flight into work is rarely about a love for success. It is often a survival mechanism. The sources tell us about the child who grew up too fast, the one who was forced to become the emotional thermostat of the home. Perhaps you were that child who learned early that love was a transaction. If you were successful, quiet, and productive, you earned a fragile sense of safety. You learned that your needs were a burden, but your performance was a shield. This is what is known as parentification, where a child is forced to reverse roles with their caregivers. In those moments, your nervous system learned that stillness was dangerous, because if you weren't constantly scanning for the next fire to put out, the world might collapse. You tied your value as a human being to your output, and as an adult, productivity became the only way you've ever felt worthy. From a neurological perspective, when a person stops working, a part of the brain called the default mode network becomes active, which is responsible for self-reflection and imagination. But for those who grew up in unpredictable environments, this network doesn't bring creativity. It brings hypervigilance. In the silence, your mind begins to weave stories about everything that might go wrong. Work then becomes the drug you use to silence the inner noise. Your high-functioning nature is actually a mask for a soul that is too exhausted to stop running. The danger of this addiction is that you end up drowning while trying to save everyone else. This chronic overachievement leads to compassion fatigue toward yourself. You treat your body as a machine and ignore the signals of a nervous system that is screaming for rest. This is self-neglect dressed as virtue. You tell yourself you'll rest when the project is done, but the list never ends because you are the one writing it to avoid the sacred silence of your own company. You are performing a version of yourself that is strong enough to protect everyone. But deep down, you are still that child waiting for someone to say, "It's okay. You don't have to do anything to be loved." You have inherited the tragedy of the unlived life, and you continue to play the hero because you fear that if you stop, people will see that you are just a human being who needs to be held. Real transformation does not begin with a new schedule for rest. It begins with radical honesty. It begins when you realize that stillness is not a void, but a space to listen to what your body has been trying to tell you for years. Healing is not about becoming less successful. It is about realizing that success is not a bandage for a wound that needs air. Rest in your home is not a waste of time. It is the emotional decompression required for a system that has been holding its breath since childhood. Stop the race. Allow yourself to simply be. Your greatest achievement will never be what you build on the outside, but the peace you cultivate on the inside when you decide you are enough without proof. You have spent years managing the world's emotions. It is finally time to come home to yourself, close the door, and realize that existing in itself is the only celebration you ever needed.